Good morning, this is Norma Cowie. Once more, I welcome you to my YouTube channel, to Wednesday's Norma Talks. Now, it's always interesting to see what topic I'm going to cover on any particular day. And today was exactly the same. I sat down and thought, oh, what am I going to talk about? I just began a tarot class, 8-week tarot class last night. So I'm sort of all caught up in my tarot thinking and teaching that. And I had a couple of topics that I thought I could cover today. One was a carry on from what I touched on my Sunday thought, and I thought I could go that a little deeper with that, and something else. And so I went to my tarot and I said, what am I going to talk about today? And up comes the Empress, which is the love symbol. I went, oh, right. Sunday is Valentine's Day. So guess what my talk will be on today? Generally love. So I did a little quick research on Saint Valentine, like where did it come from? And actually they put it to 3 different people. All of them died as martyrs, believe it or not. I kind of like the one where, well, the first one that I read about was a fellow that, I think it was, let me see, I've got it written down here, Claudius, Empress Claudius, had decided single soldiers made better soldiers than married men. So he made this edict that soldiers couldn't marry. So a fellow with a name that came similar to Valentine kept marrying them, and then he threw him in jail and he died in there. So I don't know, I forget which way, because they many ways they die. The second one was more of a romantic one, where he would help Christians escape from the Roman jails. And then he got put in jail for that. And then I guess fell in love with, I think it's the jailer's daughter. And he ended up writing a letter to her before he was killed off, by saying, and signed it, "Your Valentine," which is where the Valentine kind of came up. And there is another one that was very vague, and I really couldn't figure out exactly what it was, except he died also, mostly by around sort of the similar times, which is, I think it's the 3rd century. So good old Rome coming through and creating its saints again in one way or another. But when we think about love, and I went love, 4 letters, sorry, L-O-V-E. Now, if we do the numerological, just taking it down to the bottom, it comes to number 9, which is completion. So love is all encompassing, has everything within it. And it's also many aspects of love. And I was thinking, okay, what do we have around love? So we've got self-love, very, very important to love oneself. We have love of another. And when anybody who's been in a relationship, now, whether this is your child, whether this is the lover, whether it's the husband, because love does change. There's many different things. The love I had for my parents, the love I had for my sisters, the love I had for my children, the love I had for my husbands, even though that may have changed as time went by. But there is this encompassing element. And then the one that I talk a lot about here is the universal love that exists always, but we have to invite it in. So let's talk about self-love for a moment. First of all, I need to say, to me, love is and has become acceptance and forgiveness. When you love somebody, you don't really judge them, you accept them for who they are, with all their foibles. Because we're none of us, are any of us super perfect? I don't think so. We're always either learning something, busy with something, creating something. And sometimes we just need to accept that person that you care about is doing their thing. And sometimes that means you have to forgive them. But we also have to forgive, if we're looking at self-love, ourselves. So acceptance, forgiveness is a part of lovingness. I originally learned this actually through my tarot studies and what the tarot was teaching me about being a human in a bigger way, and how it explains this lovingness that weaves its thread in a way through a lot of different things. So how do we apply forgiveness? How do we apply that? I found as I began to study more and more how to be more clear, how to be more connected, how to be more aligned, that the major thing was for me to forgive myself in any part. And I spent a lot of months working on forgiving myself for all sorts of things, and still do quite often have to forgive myself for my speaking without thinking. It sounds like, why would you forgive yourself for that? Because sometimes other people don't really get what you want to say, and I can be a little blunt sometimes. And sometimes when I'm reviewing how I've spoken to a client or a friend, and I realize, I could have said that a little easier, and or a little bit more empathetic. And so it's like, but where do we go? Where do we go? Ask for their forgiveness? They've just probably may not have even affected them, but it did and has affected me. So I need to forgive myself for that, because it's a matter of element. And in that forgiveness, there is also an element of acceptance. Who are we really? Always in my training years ago, we were told that we were a spiritual being having a human experience. And it's the humanness of us very often, because in this planet is emotional. I've been fortunate enough to be able to do readings for people where I have observed their souls and the journey of their souls from when they first come into creation and through space and time. And it's amazing, the journey of each soul. But most places that I visit, dimensions, planets, don't have the same emotional quotient that we have on this planet. This planet is definitely an emotional planet. It seems as though we need to be able to come to terms with all our feelings without judgment. So that brings up another topic where we're going to talk about love. When you love somebody, can't be loving them and judging them at the same time. You're either one or the other. If you're judgmental, you've got to take a look at yourself as to how come and what you are judging from about you. Because one of the things I discovered is that you cannot see anything in the outside that is not on the inside, that is not a part of you. Whether it's a belief or a thought or an awareness, it's a part of you that is reflected into the external world. So if you're not loving yourself, if you're not coming to a point where there is self-love and that self-love is there, guess what? You find it hard to actually love and accept people as they are. You're going to be judgmental. You're going to say, well, why didn't they do that? Surely they knew and they could have done that and been in a different way or done it a different how, whatever, according to your standard or your belief or your awareness. This is where sometimes two people who come together from different cultures have to work out those different cultures, because you're raised with a set of beliefs and attitudes. And then you've got to kind of figure out how's that going to work for best for both of us. But when you love somebody, you will accept the differences and you'll make it work. And I know many people who have done that, and many people who thrived and have thrived in relationships that have been very, very difficult at times because they were very different. And when you're first in love, you don't see those things. You're in love. You're in love with love, and it creates its own little bubble. And then all of a sudden you start noticing. There's some very, 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 very good books that are what's the word, that I've read over the years, and tape series and things when I was trying to figure out not only my own relationships, but also relationships of clients. And one of the best authors I actually found, which was kind of later, was a lady by the name of Ellison A. Armstrong, who wrote a series of books, but I usually read them. And also for me was The 5 Love Languages by John Coleman. He's a reverend, I believe, from Boston, but maybe Chicago, up in that area of the US anyway. And I taught that actually a lot to my client and my students, because I found it so helpful to understand your love language compared to another person's love language. My love language was always words that I wanted to hear. My husband's weren't. And One was very definitely service. And I can't remember what my original husband's was now, but one was service. And so when you want someone to know that you love them and care about them, you need to know what their love language is. A majority of people that I know, their love language is gifts. It's my least one. But people give me gifts and I've learned to accept them and love them, and I remember to give as well. And I've worked on that. Words, service, I'm trying to think, there's 5 of them, 5 love languages. And I didn't research it because I know I was going to talk about this morning and bring it back into mind. But I do know that if you want a relationship to work and is not working, I recommend you read the book, first of all, for sure, but also to take a look. What is their love language? What do they require? Because this is about stepping beyond yourself. And also take a look at what you need. And I remember my second marriage when I finally said, I really need to hear this. And I was told, well, I can't say that. I realized this is over. This is not going to work because I'm never going to feel good in this relationship because my basic need of what I need is not going to be met. Sounds a little bit funny when you were talking about acceptance just a little bit earlier, but it's acceptance of self. If you love yourself, you've got to know what it is that you require in order to be all that you can be, to feel the support, the love, the essence of who you are. There's a beautiful element of that. And so this relationship that we have on St. Valentine's Day, what is your expectation? I know I'm trying to think back. I can't remember back because I've been by myself for a long time. But it's like it used to be a big thing in our house. I remember when my kids were little, and that for St. Valentine's Day. Plus in the schools, they always had everyone giving out St. Valentine's cards to all the kids. But today, a lot of children are not in school. So how are they reminded that they're loved or cared about or they're important? Because really that's what it's saying. It's a day which we say, you are important to me. And so it's about making phone calls to the people you care about. It's about writing a little email and just saying how much they mean to you. There's all sorts of ways you can reach out to let people know you care. Now, self-love. What do you do for yourself? I have always given myself treats. I don't know where I learned that. And I know it is one of the love languages. It's like it's part of gifts in a way. But it's like I give myself that gift of what I require. Sometimes it's a walk, sometimes it's a drive, sometimes it's an ice cream, which I've mentioned often. Sometimes it could be just needing to talk to a friend that's on the other side of the world. It's an interesting thing about self-love. How do you nurture yourself? How do you have yourself feel great? How do you feel yourself that's important for what you need to do? Then we've touched on the love of another, the acceptance and the forgiveness, because they're not going to be perfect and they're not going to match you 100% all the time. If you do, I concern myself about, are you giving your power away? And you're just going along with whatever. I've done that, so I know how that looks. But I want to also talk about universal love, because to me, that is the mainstay of who we are and how we work. That love is around all the time. And this is a love planet. Not all planets, as I said, not all dimensions and planets have love within them. A lot of them don't have emotion in them. They're but they're some beautiful, beautiful places. Don't get me wrong, because it's a beingness. It's a being. That's what I discovered when we first spring into being. I was expecting love, and I found beingness. That is just the essence of you, that wonderfulness. But in this planet that we're on, that we walk on, that we breathe the air, it is loving. It seems to come from the earth. It generates it. Now, what do we do with that? Do we allow it in? Because it's not like it comes knocking on the door, like when you meet somebody, there they are right in front of you, or they're on the line, or when you're talking to them, or whatever. Universal love doesn't do that. Universal love just is just there. And you've got to open up and allow it in. And I found that for myself, very difficult to do because I had a lot of stuff, which is, I've mentioned before. I got on this journey because I had to heal myself. I had to figure myself out. I had to come to a point, and then when I began to let that love in, oh, sometimes it was so difficult because I had a lot of judgments. I had a lot of words in my head about who I was or wasn't. Not much who I was, but who I wasn't. And slowly and surely, all those little walls, all those little pieces began to absorb the love. And that's what I work with my clients and having them. And then sometimes it takes quite a while for them to, actually, I got an email from one of my clients who's done a fair bit of work with me, said, I got it. All there is love. And it was like, yes. And because that universe, she allowed that universal love in. And instead of seeing judgmentally, she was seeing with love and acceptance. She was accepting people as they are. And then you can make decisions when you do that. You're not in reaction. You can make a decision as to how or what you wanted to do. So there is this on Sunday, a day of celebrating love, celebrating relationships, celebrating who we are and what we are, but also takes a little bit of time just for you to celebrate yourself, to love yourself and know that you are loved beyond measure by our universal love force that is here on this planet. And on that note, I'm just going to say, thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. I really do appreciate the people who are subscribing, that are liking, that are sharing. It means a lot to me. And also, I just want to say for those of you that do want to contact me, you can through my website, normacowie.com. So I want you to have a great weekend, especially on Sunday, Valentine's Day. And I will be back on Sunday for my Sunday Thought. Blessings to you all. Thank you.